Be careful. He's and Scott Higgins, both of them coked up out of their minds.
Listen to you. He's down in the basement. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I think we should call this the Acement.
The Acement, yes.
Yeah, what do you think there, huh?
I like that. The Acement Studios.
Excuse me, I'm drinking beer. Hold on a second.
We usually drink bourbon on our end.
Yeah, right.
The podcast, so
that's all right.
Feel free to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You shoot an 8-ball if you want. We don't care, as long as it's good stories.
And welcome to the Acement, everybody. It's time to go behind the funny. This is Scott Higgins. I can feel
and this
you.
is Acecito.
I can feel you looking at me like,
do you know your
going?
lines? Yeah.
Do you know your lines?
Stop it for.
And you make me choke.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We're glad you could join us. If you are watching us live, thank you so much. We love having you guys here. Feel free to send us a comment, send us a chat, ask a question. We love answering those for you guys. And also, if you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, that's a great place to give us that 5-star review.
Yes.
Share us with a friend. It's a great way to help us grow the podcast. We really appreciate it. If you're listening and you want to watch us live one week, every Wednesday night at 8:30, you can go to twitch.tv/drinks, jokes, the letter N, storytelling. That's drinks, jokes, and storytelling. Or go to facebook.com, Behind the Funny.
Behind the Funny is our page. And this week's bourbon date.
Yes,
this was my Christmas gift from Scotty Boy.
And he gave me a treat tonight.
Yeah,
I was not expecting this.
Well, we were out of the other shit, so I figured I'd break out the good stuff. No, tonight we're drinking our favorite Jefferson's Reserve. So this isn't Ocean. This is the Reserve, and it's actually a special reserve because it's finished in Cabernet casks, and it gives it a really deep taste, like at the end,
and
right?
Really
good, smooth,
very
so
smooth.
Clinkies. And we are excited once again to have a returning guest who we were just talking before we went live. We had him on back in 2020, and it was like the beginning of the pandemic, right?
Right after everything kind of really,
shut
started
down
and lockdowns and everything like that was happening.
So we had him in the summer of 2020, and he alluded to the fact that he was writing a book, and we had, talked about his start. He was very influential in my career. I mean, I said it before, and you've heard me talk about stories, the road gigs. He was was the guy that took me on my first road gigs. We had such a blast. Portland, Maine. We went antiquing, because there was nothing else to do. So he took me antiquing, and then I told the story. We used to go to Plattsburgh, New York. Across Lake Champlain in Vermont, but very, very influential in my career. And then he moved away a while ago, and he has been killing it ever since. Between, we talked about it on the last time we had him on, but I mean, he's been an actor in a multitude of movies. And I mean, how many people can say they've been in a Tarantino movie?
He also does music videos. This man could have been in the halftime show of the Super Bowl last
absolutely
weekend.
I know he was in the first big video Kendrick Lamar had.
Yes, yeah.
And I don't know if he touched on that the last time we were on.
I don't think we got into it that far.
So please give a warm welcome, behind the funny welcome to Mr. Ed Regine.
Woohoo!
Thanks,
hey guys.
Thanks for being on again.
Thank you for having me back again. This is great.
Yeah, this time we get to see you, because last time it was just audio.
Because I had no idea what you looked like.
Yeah, I know.
Well, Ace hasn't changed at all.
Ace looked like.
We've all gotten a little
He never
fatter.
changed anyways.
No,
he looks like that little kid that used to follow me around.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Please, Mr. Regine, take me on the road.
Yeah. And we'd bug me with questions, and how can I do this, and what should I do that?
But you know what? But you taught me a lot, man. You taught me a lot.
Well, you know what?
I appreciate it.
You have to do that. I've had people along the way, talk to me and give me ideas and, what help or whatever you want to call it. But it's always nice to talk to, a fellow comic and see their slant on how things go, and
Right.
you know, so it's important. I mean, you know, you can't be an island to yourself. You have to be with the guys and the
Right.
gals.
And that's what we were talking about too, right before we went live, about how, you know, periwinkles, and we've talked, you know, about periwinkles on this show a million times, how it was a home club, but it really was home. And you brought it up, you know, like we would talk about, you do a show in like New Hampshire, and on the way home, you wouldn't go home. You'd go by the club, just not even to get a set. It was just to hang out with the other comics, right?
No, every time. I mean, I'll tell you a funny story. I was very, very, very young in my career. And I had done a show at Periwinkles, and apparently there was some in the audience that for some crazy reason liked my comedy and booked me. I don't know if we talked about this. They booked me at the Quidnesset Country Club, which is a very, you know, hoity-toity kind of an affair.
Yeah.
So, and I totally wasn't ready for this. And I don't know if you remember Ronnie Rose, but Ronnie Rose was the band there, and he was sort of the headliner, and I was to do this little comedy spot.
Yep.
So I get out there, and, you know, these people are dressed in ball gowns and tuxedos, and, you know, here I am, this old car dealer hanging out, you know. So I started, and it didn't go well, and I kept going, and it was getting worse. And finally, I said, maybe if I spice it up a little.
Because that always works.
Great idea, right?
Yeah. While they're wearing ball gowns.
Things fly around. And about 5 minutes after that, the owner, I think his name was Janikis, if I remember.
Yes.
He came over to me while I'm on stage and whispered in my ear, I think that's enough. And I was completely devastated. I wanted to quit comedy. I said, but, you know, I can't do this. So I drive back to Periwinkles, and Frank O'Donnell is there. And Frank knew I was doing the gig. So so I walk in, and Frank goes, how'd it go? I went, oh, God, you know, it was the worst. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm done. He said, no, you're going up next.
Yeah.
And I said, all right. So whoever was, I don't remember who was on stage, but they get done, and he's hosting, and he goes back up. He introduces me, and I did the same jokes that I just did. Where
they
people
crushed.
Hated me, and they're laughing and they're applauding, and I'm like, oh my God, maybe there is a chance for me.
Exactly. Maybe
so
I
decided not to quit after that. But you see, it's like falling off the horse. You have to get back on again, you know?
You know, and it's funny.
Had a bad set. Hey, you had a bad set. You're going to have many more chances.
Right. And we talked about that with Frank O'Donnell, and Frank told the story about he opened up for Michael Bolton at the Providence Civic Center, and it went horrible. And the second he got off stage, he immediately went over to Periwinkles, and I forgot who he said was hosting, but he's like, I got to get on stage.
I think it was Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie Hall was hosting, and he's like, Charlie, you got to get me up there. I got to do another set. I got to get this stink off of me from the show that I just did. So, and he did the same thing for you. He knew you just needed to get up there and, you know, get some laughs and get your feet back under you.
And get your confidence back and feel good about it again. And then you can go on, you know. But it's funny because that was like one of there's a circle to this. It comes full circle, by the way. So let me finish the story because this is great. About, I don't know, 5 years later, now I'm a little more advanced in my career. And I get a call from Bill Downs. I don't know if that name is.
Billy Downs.
He's a booker out of Boston. Nice guy, but he was bad with money. Let's put it that way.
Legendary.
He just didn't know how to handle money. You know?
I'll come full circle to that after you're done with this story.
So he says, I got you this gig at the Quidnesset Country Club in Rhode Island. I said, I'm out. Can't do it. No way. He said, no. Why not? I said, I can't do it. I was there a few years ago. I bombed. They hated me. There's no way I should go back. He said, they won't remember. Just go back. He said, Chris Zito's going to open for you because I was headlining now. So Chris Zito's going to open for you. He said, it'll be great. You go back. So I went back. Chris Zito gets up there. And with all due respect to Chris, who I think is very funny, he had a mediocre set. And I'm like, okay. But I was more confident in my comedy, and I felt better about myself because I advanced 5 years. So I get up there, and the first thing I did was I put my hand over my mouth and went, do you ever not want to hear this ever again in your life? like when they ask for your order and
right, yeah.
And they exploded, and I went on and I went on.
Yep.
And I had a great set. Here's the finish. So Janikes is sitting at a table with a bunch of people.
Yep.
So I went over there and I said, Mr. Janikes, I don't know if you remember me. I said, but I did a show here a few years ago, and you told me to get off stage, and maybe I should not do that. All he said was, very calmly, he said, I don't recall. Here's what he said. I don't recall. He said, but I'm glad you didn't listen to me. You were very funny. And that was it.
Awesome. Yeah.
So
that guy's
full circle.
He was pretty powerful. And to your point, he actually owned all of the Burger Kings in Rhode Island. That's what Janicki was known for. They owned all the Burger Kings in Rhode Island. So it's funny that you opened up with a Burger King joke.
Yeah, I know. And it worked.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But it's funny that you brought up Billy Downs, because I brought him up on the thing. I go, every time Ed would take me on the road, every time we would go to Point Sebago for that Tuesday night show, it's like 5 hours up, and they didn't put you up in a room or anything, or even like they didn't even give us a camper. We drive back. We'd get home at like 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And but every time we would go up there, we'd have to make a stop off in Melrose to where Billy lived. And then I said, poor Ed would walk in. He goes, I got to go pick something up. He'd walk in, go in the breezeway, and come out swearing, pulling his hair, going, this motherfucker, he's too fucking owes me. Because the envelope was never there when he told you it was going to be there.
Right. Or if he owed you like $200, he'd give you like $30.
It was on the installment plan.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you the kind of guy he was. Here's another story. We're doing a ski resort in New Hampshire. I'm headlining, and I really don't recall the feature or the opener. I really don't. But we do the show, and the manager hands me an envelope, and it's sealed.
Yep.
So I said, I wonder how much Billy
what's
got
the budget?
For that. And one of the comments, that is an interesting question. The other guy said, yeah, maybe. I said, well, let's take a vote. How many want to open it up and find out? And we all raised our hand.
Of course, yeah.
So I was getting 300.
Yep.
The middle guy was getting 150, and the other guy was getting 100. So it's 550 was the budget.
Yep.
And so we opened it up, and the check was made out to Bill Downs or whatever his name was, or whatever company.
Yeah.
$1,200.
Yeah. Sounds right.
Yeah, that's about the right cut, over 50%, right?
Right.
That sounds right.
Back then, that's what they were all getting, right?
Oh, it's brutal.
It's crazy.
I forgot who we had a guest one time, Ed, that said he was doing a show for Billy Downs at a country club. And when he got there, Billy was supposed to have the checks or the money that night. And when he got there, Billy goes, I forgot him at home. I'll get it out to you this week. And the guy goes, all right, can you do me a favor? I forgot my watch. Can I borrow your watch to do my set? And Bill goes, sure. And he takes his watch off and gives it to the guy. Who was it that told the story?
Was it Santarelli?
No, it was somebody else. And they did their set, and they left with his watch as soon as their set was done. And all of a sudden, Billy's calling me, hey, man, you got my watch. He goes, yeah, and you'll get it back as soon as I get my money.
That was fun thinking.
That was fun.
Thought of that.
Yeah, right? Yeah. No shit. It would have saved a lot of
those are the good old days,
I know.
There was a couple of guys in New England that had a reputation for delaying payment, if you will, for a while. And luckily, those days are kind of behind us. Pretty much everybody now pays the night off. I don't have any
problem with getting paid from anybody. I mean,
Well, with Venmo and all those apps and everything, now they have no excuse not to pay.
Yeah,
pretty much immediately.
Plus, when I'm in my acting career, it's studios and they're accomplished and they're a big outfit. So
exactly.
I mean, there's no worry about not getting paid.
They're not holding checks.
Even the comedy gigs, I've never had a problem. In fact, I'm doing one tomorrow night in Palm Springs, and I know the guy is as good as gold. He'll have the check there waiting for me, and it's a good gig, and he'll have it there, and it'll be fine, and I'm not even worried about it. So that's good peace of mind, when you go to a gig and you're going to get paid, and you're not going there thinking, I hope I get paid for this.
Exactly.
Now, do you have an agent that books you for stand up?
Technically, no.
Okay.
Let's put it that way. Technically, no. I do have agents for my acting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the comedy stuff, I can get enough on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've
It's
been out
not-
there for how long?
I moved here in 2000. So
Right.
22
So, I mean,
years.
Yeah. You've established yourself. You don't really need an agent to get
No,
get
people
work.
know me now. I mean,
Right.
They know what I can do. They know who I am. I've had work with them and so forth.
Yeah.
So, but I think I mentioned last time that people were questioning me, thinking I had some sort of inside information because after 22 years, 2 million miles on American Airlines and over 600 cruises, I finally decided in October of 2019 that I had enough. I needed to move on in my career. I needed to do more and be in LA more because I missed a lot of stuff because I'd be at sea. Like
Right.
I did 12 Lenos as a sketch comic, and there was at least 10 times when Scott Atwell, the casting director, would call me and I'd be on a ship. I'd be in a hotel in Florida. I'd have to leave in the morning for a cruise. I couldn't make it. So it cost me that. It cost me a Conan. It cost me a Kimmel.
It almost
cost me a
didn't it almost cost you the Tarantino? Because I think you said that because when they originally asked you, I think you had said they asked you for like a 5 days for the Tarantino movie.
Right.
And you were like, oh, I can't. I got a cruise. Like I can only be there 3 days. And then they
what
ended up
happened
changing
was
it, right?
I was coming home from a cruise.
Oh, that was it. You weren't going to be home in time.
I was in the Juneau airport in Alaska, and I get I get an email from the casting director saying, I need you July 29th, July 30th, blah, 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 August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. I said, I can't do it. I said, I can't do all the dates. I said, but if you can use me for like the 30th or the 31st, I'm available because I was going home for a couple of days and then back out again.
Right.
So I emailed back and then I didn't hear anything. I'm sitting in the airport and all of a sudden I get the email and she says, what are you doing? All right. She said, here's what. She said, you'll do the 30th and the 31st. And she said, it's for a movie called Magnum Opus, which was a lie.
Right.
We'll send you an NDA and we'll send you all that stuff and all the paperwork and you're good to go. And they cast me as the maitre d', and I did my scene with Al Pacino, and it was great.
Right. And that was once
and that's
upon
how
a
I
time
got
in Hollywood.
It was kind of a lucky thing in a way.
Yeah.
No
kidding.
The dates worked out just right, So that's how it works, In fact, I'm doing a 4-day shoot Friday for a YouTube influencer. This particular company has like billions of hits, I guess, or views or whatever, and they're huge. And a lot of the actors want to get on there because there's a lot of exposure.
Right.
And so I'm doing that. And then my agent had submitted me to something in Michigan. It was a feature film that coincided with the dates for this influencer.
Yeah.
And I talked to my agent. I said, look, I think I should do this because, I'll get more work from him. This is a one-shot deal. And we didn't have enough information on the film to really know who was in it. I think it was a low budget kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Money was good.
Yeah.
But, now here's the reverse where it didn't happen for me because I'm shooting on the, let's say I'm shooting on the 18th, no shoot on the 19th. Then we shoot 20, 21 and 22 here. Yep. And I told him that I'm good for 23, 24, 25, 26,
Right. If they can use you.
And he sent back, he said, well, have a great shoot, Ed. But,
it just didn't work
we can't
out.
chance because it's in Michigan, flights get messed up, so sometimes it doesn't work out, and that's just the way it is.
So you left, I mean, you were doing cruises for years. So you left that because it was taken away from opportunities, but that's because you live out in LA. Like for someone like me to do cruises, I'd kill to do cruises at this point because I don't have anything else going on the East Coast other than my day job, which I would gladly give up if I could just do cruises all the time, but I'm sure that weighs on you too. And that's a grind, right? Because how long would you go out for a cruise?
It was either be 7 days or 2 weeks.
Okay.
I never did more than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I told him I just can't do more than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it was either 7 days or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I would do 4 shows. Let's say I would do a family show for half the crowd, and then they'd go to dinner, and then the other people come in, and I do the same family show for them.
Yeah.
And then I do a late night, and then I do another show later on after, another family show after. So you had to have 2 45s and at least a 30, 35.
Yep.
So from doing all the cruises, I built up that much material, and it was pretty easy to get through it, and yeah. So,
and what did you work for, one cruise line or multiple?
No, I worked for multiple crew. I worked for Royal Caribbean, Celebrity, Princess. I did a Holland America. I did a Crystal. I did a Regent, which was top of the line, 7 stars. Yeah, that was great. That was a great cruise. Yeah. I went to the Far East, which was amazing. We flew to Hong Kong, and then we went to Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore, which was incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, I can see why you got sick of that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that really wears on you.
Well, it was the fact that I came here to enhance my acting career.
Of course,
right.
So why would I shoot myself in the foot by not being here?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And you know what? It's funny because we've talked to, like I mentioned, Max Docelli before. We've had Joe Yannetti on here. These are guys that have done a ton of cruise ships, and all of them said the same thing. Max goes, I've missed so much. I've missed opportunities. I've missed time with my family. I've missed other things that I'd like to find more work at home and stay close around, where I just go and do the show and come back, or I go and do this and come back, where I'm home more nights, instead of being away weeks at a time.
I can't remember.
You miss a lot of stuff. You miss birthdays, you miss anniversaries, you miss family gatherings, birthdays. I even worked a couple of Thanksgivings. I did one Christmas in 22 years. And after I did it, I said, I'm never going to do another one. I did some New Year's Eve, which was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's,
you hear that from a lot of
the
guys.
money's good. Yeah. The money's good. You can't complain about the money. Although if you break it down, it's really not that much, but over the course of the week, so,
and they're putting you up and feeding you
$3,500 a week.
Right.
And, I did 4 shows, not too bad, but I was there the whole week. So basically, if you break it down, they're giving me like $500 a day to be there.
Exactly.
So you have to take into consideration how much downtime there is, and how much you're not going to be where you need to be, which is here for me, to enhance my acting.
Right. And it's funny, I can't remember who was on. Someone was on last year where they were saying that some of the cruise lines were trying to push the comics to be like the other entertainers, where they wanted them to go out for 3 months at a time. And I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if that would ever happen, because I don't think.
Yeah, and the reason
who the hell could do that
for that is the company wanted to save money.
Right.
Because if they would fly me out the day before, put me up in a hotel, I'd only be there a week, then they got to fly me back. Whereas if they kept me there, that would save.
That's saving flights every week.
A ton of hotels, a ton of flights.
Yeah.
So but it was a great experience. I saw a lot of the world, places I probably would have never went. I met a lot of amazing people.
Yeah.
So it was worth it. And it was a time in my career that I decided to do it. And in 2019, I moved on. I moved on to more acting and more selective in my comedy. Yeah. And that's it. And I wrote a book.
Yeah, and that's what I was just going to say. So that led you to wanting to write the book?
Yeah. I wanted to. I think that my life story is full of ups and downs. Put it that way. A lot of tragedy. Yeah. A lot of high points. And it's a story that I think I wrote because. Not so much for me or for entertainment. I wrote it more for inspiration, because, I was a guy that was in the car business for 12 years. I hated it. Yeah. I really hated it. Got in trouble for it. Paid whatever I had to pay. You know the story. Yeah. And my debt to society, and I just, I don't know what happened. I just fell into it, because I always wanted to be a comedian as a young kid, watching TV. I'm old school. I was watch like all the old guys,
right?
The guys from the 60s and late 50s and all those comedians. And I would watch them. I'd be sitting there going, I can do that. That looks so easy. It's like,
right.
I could do it. Because a good comic will make it look easy.
Right, exactly.
People in the audience misconstrue that by
they
thinking
think that it's that easy.
I could do that. I could do that. Well, I found out that there's a lot more to it, but that I'm getting ahead of myself. So I wrote the book as an inspiration, more inspirational and more motivational. That if someone reads the book, they can say, hey, here's a guy, was in a horrible job, went to prison for it, walked into a comedy club at 38 years old, and next thing you know, he's headlining all over the place. He's in movies, he's everywhere,
right?
And along the way there was tragedy, losing people dear and to me, and the setbacks that I had. So but I kept going, and you can't look back, you got to keep going. So that was my motivation for writing it, as an inspirational book, and something that can really motivate people. Like if you read it, you see like, hey, if this guy could do that, and maybe I could do that.
Right.
And it's not about comedy. It could be anything.
It's just having the motivation to keep moving forward. Right.
I even said in the book, if you love to knit, and you don't have enough time, make time, knit stuff, do stuff. If you like to do that, paint. If you like poetry, do it. Right. If you have a love for something, you should just express it. Let other people know what it is, and if is this making any sense?
Very much, because I remember when you were on and you shared your story with us. I mean, obviously Ace and you worked together, and so he was a little more familiar. For me, it was the first time hearing it, and it's an amazing story, that what you went through, that you were still willing to put yourself out there, because comedy, you got to be pretty brave to get up there to begin with, but then to keep pushing through. And you mentioned that gig earlier, and I always joke that it's that gig that makes you say, maybe Enterprise Rent-A-Car is hiring. But yet something compels you to keep going, and keep trying it, and you had that you had that drive and that fortitude to keep sticking with it, and you've become successful because of it, and you're living your dream now. So I can imagine the book is if what you shared with us that time is in even more detail in your book, I can't wait to read your book. I really can't.
Well, thank you anyways, but Ace would know this because he's been doing it a long time. Once you do comedy and you're semi-successful, or you don't really like suck so bad that
then you get booed off.
Like nobody wants you, right?
Yeah,
like nobody wants you. You can't get any. If you can get on stage and people put you on stage and you get that feeling of laughter from the audience, it's really a drug, and it gets in your blood. And there are people that just tell me all the time, I could never stop doing this because it just feels so exciting and exhilarating, and to make people laugh is such a wonderful thing. It's which I wrote in my book. People say, why'd you want to become a comedian? Because I wanted to make people laugh. Because I think laughing is so important, and it has even medical connotations to it, where it releases the endorphins and makes you feel better and more exhilarated. And you see people, Ace can probably go along with this. When you leave a comedy club after you've done your set, or the show's over, you can see people, they leave in a much different
mood
mindset than when they went in. They're talking, they're laughing about it, they're you know what I'm talking about, right, Ace? They come out and they're like, oh, that was great, oh,
exactly,
and they're excited.
Ace hasn't seen that in a while.
Them, something to be excited about, because they don't get a chance, and they do it. A lot of people do it vicariously because they wish they could do it and they could make people laugh, but they they have somebody else do it for them.
Right.
And you're right. It's funny. I don't know any comic we've ever spoken to that said, yeah, I got in it to be famous or to be rich.
Nobody.
We all
Nobody
got
has
into
ever
it
said that.
just to make people laugh.
Yeah.
Because we love that feeling of, oh my God, I just made a room full of people laugh. That is the
Strangers.
best feeling in the
A
world.
room full of strangers.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's why when people say, oh, my friends tell me I'm funny, I should do comedy. I tell them, you know what? I'm not going to discourage you from it, but I am just going to warn you. The reason why your friends think you're funny is because you're finding a common thread that everyone finds funny. The challenge is going to be making strangers, finding a common thread with strangers that they find funny.
And that's why when I started,
Yeah.
I told no one in my family what I was doing.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want them to come see me and get a false reading of what I was doing. I wanted
how good you
strangers
were
to tell me what I was doing.
Right.
I didn't need my family there saying, "Oh, you're so funny, you're great, you always made us laugh. I knew you could." I didn't want to hear that. That's
Right.
not what I wanted. I wanted to get a room full of strangers and make them laugh, because that way I know that I'm doing something. I'm not just entertaining my family because they think I'm funny anyways. So.
Exactly.
It's funny you say that because we've had a lot of comedians describe like my first time on stage, a bunch of my friends and family came out and I thought, oh my God, I did awesome. And then my second time on stage was at this open mic. Nobody came to see me and I bombed horribly. And I'm like,
that's what happened.
So many
what
comics
happened the
tell us
first
that.
time? I did so great.
Yeah.
And
that's what
you
happens.
your support system was there and they thought they're going to laugh no matter what you say.
Right.
So you're right.
Right.
It's funny you say that.
Exactly. So, you just have to, accept it, it's life and laughter is part of life. And you have to accept the fact that people need to laugh.
Yep.
They really do. Especially, times now are really crazy and people are just dying to laugh.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned this. Well, I probably didn't because we didn't open the club. I opened a little comedy club in my neighborhood.
I was gonna ask you that because I keep seeing you posting clips about it, and I wasn't sure if it was your club in your area.
Well, I'm partners with another comedian, a guy called Randy Lubis, who's a comic, and he had his own club in Ventura, California, for 24 years. He approached me. He said, "Ed, can we do something near Simi Valley? I know you live there. You're familiar with the area."
Yep.
I said, well, let me look around. And I found this room. It was a 60-seater. I approached the owner of the place and they said, yeah, let's give it a whirl. We opened on May 22nd and we've been going great. It's only awesome. 60 seats, but we've had some great people coming. We had Jamie Kennedy.
Oh, wow.
Bobby Collins did it.
Yeah.
Let's see who else. We got the Unknown Comic, the original Unknown.
Get out.
Coming up. Yeah, he's coming up from Friday.
Oh my God! Wait a minute. Murray Langston. Is it Murray Langston?
Murray Langston.
Yes,
the real guy. Yeah,
he's a
legend.
Coming. Yeah.
So we've had some great shows. We've had some sellouts, awesome. And people just love it because they say, "Hey, there's nothing around here like this,"
Right.
So I got my fingers in that pie. I'm also working on some stuff in Las Vegas that I'm working on. Could be a big deal. Can't really say too much about it right now, but I'm looking into some stuff there and I've had a couple of meetings and we'll see what's going to happen with that. Nothing definite yet, but it looks positive. We'll see. I just keep trying to reinvent myself. You just have to try to stay fresh, try to stay new, try to do different things, I'll give you a perfect example of why some comedians, and I'm not going to mention the name of this comic, but some comedians just are a comedian and they just, I guess that's all they care about.
That's all they want to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I was on a cruise ship and I did my show and I'm sitting out by the pool and a guy approaches me. He said, "Hey," he said, "I saw your show last night. That was hysterical." He said, "Well, me and my wife, we had to my wife had to wipe the makeup and all that, and all those accolades." I'm like, "Oh, thank you very much." He said, "Hey, let me ask you a question." I said, "Yeah, go ahead. Do you know this comedian named so-and-so?" I said, "Yeah, I do." He said, "I saw him on a ship about a month or two ago. And I liked his act. It was funny." He said, "But then I saw him about 6 weeks later. I took another cruise and he happened to be the comedian and he did exactly the same show." I said, "Really?" I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah." And then I went over to him and I said, "Hey, you did the exact same show you did the last time I saw you." And this comic looked at the guy with deadpan and said, "Hey, it works."
Wow.
So that was it.
So he didn't grow at all.
No.
Like if I was on a cruise ship that much, I mean, listen, I know I do a lot of old shit, like stuff that I've been doing for years.
No school, Foster. No school,
Yeah.
Foster Gloucester.
Hey, it works.
That'll
it
never
works.
get old.
No,
Never
not
get
in.
old.
Listen, you know as well as I do. If I didn't do it in Rhode Island, people would be like, "Hey, what happened to no school, Foster
Right.
Gloucester?"
Foster
That's right. No, but if I was on a cruise ship and I had that much free time, where I would be sitting by the, I'd be writing shit all the time.
You can write
Are
a
you
thing
kidding?
or two.
Absolutely,
You can write a thing or two.
But you know what? I love what you're saying, where you need to just try and reinvent yourself and try new things because, you know, we've talked about it before. I kind of came up with an idea for a children's book, and I wrote the book. Now I'm looking for an illustrator, and we do the podcast. I still do shows. It's like people are like, "Oh my God, you do so many things," and I'm like, I don't want to be on my deathbed and have any regrets. I want to be able to say, you know what, I did this. I don't even care if the fucking children's book sells. Like,
Hey,
I just want to be able to say I authored a children's book.
I wanted to do it, and
this.
I did it.
Exactly. And that's what I love about the message that you're sending in the book is persevere. Don't give up. Do what
never.
you've always wanted to do.
Never. You know, you miss every shot you don't take.
Exactly. I think that was Socrates that said that, right?
I think
Well, Michael
Jordan, I believe.
I think it was Tony V.
Yeah, there you go. No, I think Tony V said you miss every pie you don't eat. I think that's what it was.
And he has yet to miss a pie.
He has yet to miss a pie.
So let me tell you what
Yeah.
really, really inspired me. And it's funny that when you have something like even you in Rhode Island, you've been there, people know you.
Yeah.
So young comics coming up, you can say something to them that can have an impact.
Yeah.
You may not even realize it, but there are ways you can impact these young kids by just saying something or giving them a tip or just saying something about what they did, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, this is what inspired me. Have you ever heard of David Paymer?
No.
Wait a minute. I know that name.
He's a character actor. He's been in a million things. He played, did you see Mr. Saturday Night?
Oh, yeah.
He was Billy Crystal's brother.
Oh,
in the
yeah.
Yes.
That guy.
I know exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
That guy. So I'm at the Friars Club in Beverly Hills, and I'm opening for Billy Crystal. Billy Crystal's brother, Richard, does a Sinatra tribute. So, so Billy opened up. I actually opened up.
Yeah.
I opened up, and then Billy opened up in front of his brother, and then the music carried the night. So I did 20 minutes, and the crowd was great. And then Billy went up and he killed. And he's not anything like you see on television or in a movie. He's very, very calm, very reserved, very soft-spoken. He just came over to me after and said, kind of gave me a wet fish and said, "You were very funny."
Yeah.
Okay. That didn't inspire me, but but here's what inspired me. David Paymer came over to me. He didn't say great show. He didn't say I really enjoyed your act. He didn't say I think you're funny. He looked me right in the eye and he said, "You should be working every day."
Wow.
And I'm thinking, wow, I should be working every day.
Right.
Yeah. But these cruises, I got to do something. And that was like 2015-ish, somewhere in that area. So I had to begin to make the process of moving on.
Weaning yourself off of that
part of me and moving on to this part. So you just can't stay stagnant. It's not good for the comedian or the entertainer or for the audience, Right. So that's the way I feel. I feel like, if you reach a plateau, try to get, shoot for the moon.
Exactly.
Shoot for the moon. If you don't land there and you land I don't know,
you might go to Mars.
5,000 miles from the moon, you did pretty well.
Right.
The moon's 240,000 miles from Earth. So if you miss it by 10,000 miles, that's pretty damn good.
Right.
Didn't
You're
do
still
too
in
bad.
orbit.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's funny that you say that though, because that's actually even what we do with this podcast. Honestly, we started the podcast, 5-6 years ago.
A little over 5 years
Thank
ago.
God for this podcast during the pandemic,
Oh, yeah.
because at least we had something to do that had to do with comedy, that kept us around comedy, that kept us talking to comedians through the pandemic, where we weren't going out and doing shows, where we weren't able to go out and do live shows.
Right.
Or we'd start doing them and then all of a sudden we couldn't do them. You'd be okay in the summer, in the spring, in the fall, and then all of a sudden shut down for winter again. Like even now we're
Well, there are
starting
a lot
to
of
see
comedians that performed at my club that went on stage with notes because
they
it
hadn't
was like
done
one
it
of
in
the
so
first
long.
shows
Yeah.
they had done in a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they did a couple Zoom things, but those didn't work, and nobody really did a lot of Zoom. So they actually brought the notes on stage.
Yeah.
Now these are heavy hitters. These are
Right.
professionals. Real guys that are headline all over the country. But they had to look at their notes because it was such a long time before they did a show that. And the audience was cool with that,
Right.
And the comedians would even say it. They would say, it's my second show since the pandemic and I'm a little bit rusty. I was rusty.
Yeah.
I host every show at my club.
And we talked about that as things started to open up after the initial lockdown. Audiences were very generous. They were happy to be out. So yes, you could say to them, it's my first time on stage in a long time.
Right.
And they would be very forgiving and they would laugh and they would still have fun and everything like that. And I think in some ways they still are somewhat.
Yeah, they're still understanding, but it was interesting because one of the first shows we did after the lockdowns, we were on a show together up in New Hampshire, Hollis, New Hampshire. It was like a little vineyard. They had like 80 seats, 60 or 80 seats there. And it was an outdoor show, beautiful. But we're sitting in the green room, which was the picnic table outside. And we're sitting there and I look at Scott and I go, holy shit, what do I close on? And then it took us both like 5 minutes staring at each other going, oh yeah, Family Guy. Then he looks at me and he goes, what do I open with?
I get
like, he could. We were both so fucking rusty.
I get up
we
to
couldn't
walk
even
up
think
from
of
my
it.
spot because I knew the guy was getting ready to done. And I stop and I turn and look at him. I go, what do I open with?
Right.
You're so out of sync.
And you take it for granted when you've been doing it for 20, 30 years, doing it every weekend, or even if you weren't working that much, if you were doing it every other weekend, to go all of a sudden now a stretch of 6 months, like.
Well, especially coming off the cruises where I was doing so much of it that I could wake up in the middle of the night and do my act. It was just in there,
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have to think about it.
Right.
But when we opened the club, first time I got up there and I introduced and welcome, it's our opening night, and I'm going to be your host, and then I went into a bit, and then I realized when I got off stage, wow, I left out that. I left out that.
Yes.
I left out that. I left out that, Because I didn't want to take notes up there. I felt kind of
But
everybody else started doing it.
The audience didn't know that though, and it's funny how they still laugh, even though to you you're like, all right, I missed 6 out of 12 lines, but the 6 lines that I remembered, they liked, and they didn't know that there were 6 other lines missing.
They don't. They don't know.
And now that you've been hosting the show regularly, it probably like now you're right back in it, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, In fact, tomorrow night I'm doing almost an hour where I'm going in Palm Springs, and it's going to be a breeze. Not even worried about it.
It's all stuff.
Yeah, because it came all back. I mean, that was 9 months ago, 10 months ago.
Right.
So show after show after show after show, it just keep, and it helped me write new material too. So I've got a whole bunch of new stuff and a good chunk of stuff. I have.
That's what helps when you're hosting your own show.
Yeah,
on a weekly basis, because you can sandwich in a new joke in between a couple of things.
Right,
and go,
you can play around.
All right, that worked. All right, let me put that in. I'll set this aside. I know that works. Now I'll try a new one next week, and then all of a sudden you're building up 10 more minutes.
And we talked about crowds being generous, but let me ask you this, Ed. Have you seen in all this time in your club or any other place since the pandemic, we look at what's going on with Joe Rogan right now and everything in this cancel culture. I mean, are you seeing any of that anywhere? Because we talk about that all the time about, it seems, and I heard David Cross say this recently, who's a brilliant comedian, that it seems like we've gone from not people just taking it out of context. He said people don't even care about the context anymore. It's a one trigger word and they want to cancel you. They want to get upset, that they want to lose their shit over whatever you're saying because of a word, never mind the context.
Of that one word, right?
Well,
there's been a lot of comedians that have been canceled. I mean, not a lot, but there's a good number of them, like Kevin Hart got in trouble, stuff like that. But in my club, and fortunately or unfortunately, I'm sort of in a little bit leaning right town. So
they're not as offended by everything.
Yeah, they're kind of cool with it, Yeah. And no, I haven't had anybody say, hey, no, none of that. No,
see, because we've
even had guys that were sort of left and did a few things about Trump and stuff, and the audience
they were fine
because most of the audience that comes, they're kind of conservative and but and we've only had, I guess, in all this time, I don't book anybody. I told my partner, I says, I don't want to book anybody. You handle the headliners. And he's got a guy that works another club that he runs who does the features. And we had, since we've been open, we've had only 3 features that, unfortunately, and I don't like to do this, but I said, they can't come back.
They can't come back. Yeah.
No, the language, not funny.
Right. Shouldn't have even been hosting, let alone featuring.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a guest spot. I host 2 guest spots and a headliner.
I see.
So, but one guy was just, the F-bomb every other word, and it meant no reason why he was doing it. It didn't mean anything. Right. And that's, and then we had another guy that, he pulled out a little guitar that we didn't even know he had.
Really? Yeah.
And he's doing the song, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy.
Yeah.
So but
did he pull out a clam suit by any chance?
I'm sorry.
Did he pull out a clam suit by any chance?
And start squirting the crowd?
No. I'm a clam. No.
Hey, did you see my Vroom commercial?
Was that the one with
where I'm trying to buy the car from the lady?
Yes, I sent you a message about it. I was like, oh my God, yeah. Remember, I was like, oh my God, Eddie, I just saw you on a commercial. Yes.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was fun.
That was fun. No, the reason why we asked about that was because I just got a gig offered to me from this place that does like colleges, but they do small colleges. And I'm like, and I'm like, I'm open that night, but it's in Pennsylvania. And I'm like, I'm 53 years old now. I'm almost 54.
What?
I'm 54.
Oh my God. When is the time?
May. Yeah, no shit. I know.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, no, I'm 54. I have nothing in common with college kids. Yeah, exactly.
I'm still 38. The first night at Periwinkles. What happened?
Believe me, I still feel like I'm 21 when I started. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, I have nothing. None of my act is going to be applicable to the colleges. I don't even know if when I start doing Family Guy impressions, if they're even going to like it, because they might have canceled Family Guy for all I care. I just have no desire to do colleges. And it's not like it was when we used to do them.
No, I did a bunch of colleges. Yeah. And then I noticed that the audiences would, we started to drift.
Change.
The audience and me. We started to drift, and I said, okay, that's enough.
Yeah, but if you're talking about the late 80s, early 90s, I was in college from 88 to 91, 92. We were listening to Eddie Murphy and
right.
I was still listening to Richard Pryor records and stuff like that.
They're not doing
that. And Andrew Dice Clay.
Exactly. I saw Andrew Dice Clay live at the Hartford Civic Center while I was in college. So, I mean, we thought differently than college kids today.
The college kids today don't really watch comedy. They watch YouTube and TikTok people.
Yeah, and I don't want to get off on the wrong foot here or get or sway from the conversation we're having. Yeah. But these kids that go to school now, they're brainwashed.
Oh, absolutely.
They're told. You know what they're told? I mean,
they're told what to think.
They're told that America is a bad country.
Right.
It's a horrible
Yeah.
country. They stole the land from the Indians. They stole the land from the Mexicans.
Right.
They had, they had
What's-
slaves. It was horrible.
The
It was
problem
awful.
is they're applying a filter of today and the lens of today, what we think is wrong. Like we wouldn't steal land now, or we wouldn't do this now, but you're applying that to what happened 200 years ago, 250 years ago. You can't do that. It's totally
No, it
different.
doesn't
It was a
make any
different way of living back then. It didn't make it right, but you can't just ignore it. It's
No.
how it happened,
Well, that's the same thing that happened to I mentioned Rogan earlier.
Yeah.
When the whole thing came out a week or so ago about him using the N-word on his podcast, it was in 2009 that someone found an episode where he did it.
Right.
You know, they had to go back to then to find it. It wasn't something he did recently. It wasn't something he did last week.
Right.
He did it
Doesn't make
13, 14 years ago. It doesn't make it right.
Right.
But the other argument that I have is that is a podcast that gets streamed that you have to go to listen. It's not on public airwaves.
You have a choice. Exactly.
So you can choose to listen or not listen to it.
Right.
I don't know.
like we've talked about it before.
Thousand
Remember?
times.
Like
when you
people
were
are
a kid.
Like
when
people
you
are
were-
tuning out right now. I can
Right.
feel it.
Yeah. No. We still got listeners. No, but like when you were a kid, if you didn't like what you were watching, you changed the channel, or your parents
That's it.
changed the channel.
Yeah.
You didn't write a fucking letter to NBC saying take the red skeleton,
No.
special off because he made fun of redheads, or
Yeah, it's
something
no
like
good.
that.
I don't know. My mother might have. She was watching
Well, your mom
Jim and
was
Tammy
different.
Faye Baker on the PTL Club,
Yeah.
so she might have wrote letters.
Your mom was different.
She was.
It's
she
a
was
different
nuts.
world. It's a
Yeah.
completely different world. And, I don't know if it's going to stay like this. If it does, it's not the kind of country I really want to live in. But
Hey,
I think
just,
the options aren't good either.
It
So,
makes me glad that I'm on the second half of my life. Now I understand why old people got curmudgeon-y and grumpy. Like,
Yeah.
I just want to fucking die.
yeah.
That's why
You know?
Ace wants to perform on cruise ships and retirement homes, because it's all going to be people
It's
that don't give a shit
they
and don't get
give a shit.
offended.
Exactly. I'll go play the villages in Florida every fucking week. I don't care.
Yeah.
Because they'll like us.
Hey, from what I hear, you can get laid pretty easy. there, too.
Yeah, that was the number one place.
Do you know
for
how
bell
many
checks.
people out there that would love to say things that they can't,
Yeah.
but they
Oh,
would love to
absolutely.
be able to say it, but they can't because what'll
Exactly.
happen?
Well,
And,
But
and
getting back
that's
to
why you
Joe
used to
Rogan.
go to a comedy club, Ed, is to hear someone say the things you want
That's
to say.
right.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. No one.
I'm
no
sorry,
one-
you-
No
I
one
want
said.
to get back to Joe Rogan for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
go ahead.
And I worked with Joe when he was starting out. I don't know if
Yeah.
you remember
Yeah.
that. We did Brian Deary's room in Narragansett
Windsor.
a couple of times. I
The
forget
first
the name.
time I ever got a paid gig was with Brian Deary, and you and Joe Rogan were the co-headliners on the show, and it was Windsor's in Narragansett.
That's right.
It was a shithole.
Windsor's.
Go ahead.
You got a good memory. Yeah. Anyways, and yeah, I love Joe. I mean, he's a good guy. Does a lot of good things. But I felt bad when he apologized
Yeah.
Yeah.
because he had nothing really to apologize for. He didn't do anything wrong. He had a
Right.
doctor on that was telling the people what he knows and he's the guy that created the mRNA vaccine.
Well, he created the technology, not the necessarily
Right,
the
but
vaccine.
you know what I
but
mean.
yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah.
Dr. Malone. So what did he do wrong?
He had
He
a
didn't really
conversation.
do anything
That's
wrong.
it.
And
Yeah.
the worst thing you can do in this culture is apologize because they're
Yeah.
only going to come at you harder.
Right.
You have to
right.
stand your ground and you have to say, I'm sorry, that's how I feel. And if you don't like it, you can call me a racist. You can do whatever you
Right.
want. But I believe in this and you ain't going to change my mind. And I'm not apologizing. And that's
Right.
it.
Yeah, his podcast isn't supposed to be instructions or how to do things. It's just a conversation with somebody. You're just
Right.
listening in on a conversation. That's
That's
all
all
it's meant. That's all it's meant to be.
That's all it is, And, he got in trouble for it.
Yeah.
So,
That's kind of what we got to deal with right now. But we want to mention the name of your book,
Yeah.
Ed.
my
Welcome
book
to-
is
welcome
How-
to the
How
stage.
Not to be funny.
It's a very successful book. Ace has
It's
read it
very
twice.
successful.
I've read it twice.
It's a
It's working
bestseller.
for me. Yeah.
A lot of comics have read it and left the business.
Yeah.
So it's working.
Yeah.
We know a few.
No. It's called unfortunately, we know a few that should have left but didn't.
Well, you didn't leave.
No.
Have you been inducted into the Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame?
I have, and believe me, I have been lobbying for the fact that you and Frank Santos Sr. should be in there as well. But
wow.
That's a whole other thing.
Who's in charge of that thing?
It's Rockin' Joe Hebert. Rockin' Joe came up with the concept of the Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame.
Maybe Rockin' Joe doesn't like me.
Well, listen, no one is a true comic if we haven't had a falling out with Joe at some point where Joe doesn't talk to you for about a year or two. And I love Joe, but I had, you never had one, really?
I never had a fallout with him.
No, maybe that's why. I
got a video. I got a video of the Comedy Connection of him introducing me.
Really?
It was a glowing introduction.
Well, I've been telling him there's a couple of people that really should be in, because again, his criteria are who brought attention to the Rhode Island comedy scene, like who made Rhode Island proud by what they're doing. And I mean, the fact that you've been in LA for 22 years and been in movies and videos and acting, legitimate acting and comedy for so long, I absolutely think you should be. And the good news is very soon there's going to be an announcement. Actually, this will come out the day after. So they are so Charlie Hall made a big joke about the fact that the Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame isn't so much a hall as it is a website, because there's kind of true. It's true. It is not kind of true. It is true. There is a website for the Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame, but there's no physical place for any Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame, and there is actually in the works, and we'll wait until the official date is announced, but there's going to be a new comedy club opening up here in Rhode Island, and part of that club is also going to have the Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame in it. Wow. So I think you got to let us know. Do you ever come back to Rhode Island?
I haven't been since I did Charlie Hall's April's Fools in like 2009.
Oh wow.
Was it? Maybe.
Oh, okay. Like one of the comedy festivals.
Yeah.
Was it the Rhode Island Comedy Festival?
We did it in East Greenwich at one of those theaters.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
No, I haven't been back since.
That's the last
time. And Mike Clark, when you're coming back, why don't you stop by? And then I got if I left and went back, I could work.
You could work for a month out here.
God knows how much I could. Yeah, there's guys in Pennsylvania want me to do it. There's a resort in New York, and all of that. But again,
let me know if you ever do, because I think the last time I played Mike Clark's club was with you. Opening for you.
I might be getting back in before you do.
I know, no kidding. No, I love Mike. Don't get me wrong, but he was always like, the thing is, Ace, you're a Rhode Island comic, and I'm like, yeah. And the Boston comics come down to Rhode Island and tell Boston landmarks. So what's the difference, But no, if you ever do come back, you got to let us know, because
I will. I will. Maybe,
I'll start a petition now. I'll start a petition now. I think
I just don't want to take myself out of town, and then I got this stuff in Vegas that I got to focus on.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I got a lot on my plate, and I don't really have any road gigs planned.
Yeah.
But maybe someday, maybe before I croak.
Well, you still got family. You still got family here, right? Is your son?
I have my son
here?
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the only family I have there is my son. Everybody else, because I was the baby of the family, everybody else is pretty much gone.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a 20-year gap between me and my oldest sister. So, yeah.
Oh, all right.
So, yeah. But, I would love to do giggles, and I'd love to do some stuff. Is the Comedy Connection still around?
It is. But they don't, they haven't really been booking Rhode Island or Boston people for that much. They do a lot of like Comedy Central, not even Comedy Central, really. It's
a lot of
like
New York-based
and
New York-based young comedians.
Is that Butch Bradley? Did he buy it?
Netflix? No. Two other guys have it.
I thought Butch Bradley bought it.
No, you know who had it for a while was Eric Hoffer. Do you remember?
Eric Hoffer? That's what I'm thinking.
Eric had it. Now Eric is out in Hawaii, so he's doing some stuff
he's got a room
out in
Hawaii.
Yeah, he keeps reaching out to me. You want to come out to Hawaii? I go, I'd fucking love to come out to Hawaii, but That's a 2-week thing. If
Yeah.
I go out there, I'm not
Yeah.
going out there for a weekend.
Right. You got to stay.
You got to stay.
What about Blumenreich? I haven't heard from him either. He tried to
owed
book me
the-
on a couple of things years ago, and I just couldn't.
Yeah, he has the Wilbur Theater.
He's
in
got
Boston.
the Wilbur Theater in Boston.
Yeah.
But
So
there might
really,
be some, like I
The
said,
funny thing is, even after 22 years of being away, not much has changed. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's
No.
still but a lot of the people that used to hold a lot of the power don't really hold the power anymore. Because you know what? You know as well as I do, clubs aren't what they used to be. Clubs don't make your career. It's not like you get in at your local club and then you get seen by someone. Like when we started, it was like Comedy Central was coming around. We had about a month ago,
the Improv.
Evening at the Improv.
Yep.
All of those. That kind of weight that those comedy clubs used to have, it's not really there. And that's why this person that's looking to open a new comedy club here with the Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame is really trying to bring back that feel of Periwinkles, that hominess of Periwinkles. So stay tuned. We'll definitely fill you in on that when it actually happens and it's announced.
That'd
be awesome.
Get you back for a working weekend and an induction into the Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame.
Well, listen, this year, just so you know, you would be in great company. This year, Ruth Buzzy is being inducted into the Rhode Island Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
She can't make it back because I think they said she's like 85 years old and living in Texas, so she can't travel.
Right.
But
she's had some health issues.
She's had health issues.
Yeah.
But that's why we got to get you in before you start having health issues. We got to get you in while you're still a spry young man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
What a douche.
I'm only 38.
That way. I know you're only 30. I'm
go.
older than you. I'm 53. What the hell?
That's right.
No. I think I told the story before. We went to Portland, Maine. The first time you took me to Portland, Maine, and he goes, I had no, this is how naive I was when I was that age. I was in my early 20s. And he goes, all right, let's get up. We'll go. You ever been to a pawn shop? Now, with my Rhode Island accent, I'm thinking he means porn. Meaning a pawn shop. I go, is this guy taking me to a fucking sex store? Like, what's going on? No, we're in an antique shop.
Yeah.
I bought a mirror there for $60. This big oak mirror. It looked like the mirror from fucking Snow White. The mirror on the walls mirror. I had that thing in my house. I moved it 3 times, 3 different houses. I finally got rid of it at a yard sale. Probably sold it for $60 because I said it was antique. But that's what we did all day.
I still do that to this day.
Do you really?
Yard sales, estate sales, garage sales.
Well, you know what? We had so much fun doing
It's my
that.
hobby.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to find. It's like treasure hunting.
Listen, when you did the connection in Portland, you either went treasure hunting or you went to the main mall, and we did both. We would walk up and down.
When you're there for the weekend, especially if it's winter.
And we went to. Did we go to the movies? Because
we went to the movies too. Yeah. It was fun. But that's the thing, and that's why now if I get booked like out of state, I always try and bring an opener with me to do like 20 minutes because I remember what Ed did for me.
Yeah.
Bringing me to different places. And that's why I try and do it for guys like James Firth or Derek Fonseca, newer guys. So
got to pay it forward.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I really appreciate what you did for me. So,
hey,
so the book,
it's just a few simple steps,
Right.
Yeah.
But when you're backstage, loosen up a little bit, You have to
but
go
it's
crazy.
a few simple steps that not everyone
get the blood
took.
going, go over your set, make sure everything is in order.
Yep.
My thing is I like to watch everybody.
Yep.
I always get there early because I want to see what's going on. What did the first comic do?
Yep.
Did they touch anything that I might talk about? How's the audience? How did they react to that kind of joke?
Right.
Could you use an R-rated joke there? So I'm always aware of that. And that's really what I do. And people go, why are you here so early? You're closing the show. I said, well, I just like to be here.
Right.
I'm the same way. If I'm closing the show, I'm there a half hour before the show starts.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to a show where the headliner does a joke and it falls flat? It's because someone in front of them did the joke.
Exactly. And they didn't realize it because they showed up halfway through the show. Right.
That happened to me personally. That's why I make sure I'm there and watching everybody, because
It's important to get there early.
I did a joke one time and it fell flat, and it caught me so off guard. And someone in the audience goes, "The guy before you said almost the same thing."
Yeah.
And it just threw me for a loop. And I watch every single time now.
Now, if you had seen the guy do the joke before, you would have either not done it or you would have adjusted it to make it a callback to his set.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Or if you have enough material, you just toss it for that show.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
So, it's simple. It's just a few simple steps, you know.
Yep.
And the most important thing when people ask me, you know, just get on stage. That's why I used to take you with me, because you were young and you wanted to learn and you were eager. And I said, okay, come on. You know, let's go. You want to do it? Let's do it. But I'll never forget
what
Gary Goldman. Remember Gary Goldman?
Yeah. I think I've heard of him.
I'm doing a show with Gary. I didn't book him.
Okay for himself.
Yeah.
Well, he's not that. I mean, he's okay. I can tell you a couple of stories about Gary Goldman, where he almost was like ready to have a nervous breakdown because he thought he was like so important that they made him wait in line at the Improv on Melrose, where he couldn't even get on. You know, and that came from an A-list guy who told me that. I'm not just saying it. So the guy who said it, very creditable. But here's the funny thing about it. And I guess it worked for him because he went on and did okay. Yeah. But I was working with him, and then I said, "Hey, Gary, you know, I got this gig. I think it was John Martin's Manor in Maine."
Yep.
You remember that?
No, I don't know if I ever.
Well, it was John Martin's Manor in Maine. So he fed you. You had a hotel.
Andrea Martin's brother?
Andrea Martin's brother, right.
Yes, I do remember. Yep.
Right. So I said, hey, I got this gig. They feed you. You get a hotel, you know, and you get 125 in cash. He looked at me like I insulted him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he said to me, I don't leave my house for less than 200. I said, okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Then stay home.
Yeah.
And I never, that's, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the wrong attitude to take, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he did some things that, you know, he's proud of or whatever he did.
Which is fine.
But, you know, I think with him, and we've talked about it on this show before, I think with him, it's his depression is so severe. I mean, his last special was called The Great Depression, because it was all about how he went into just this deep depression for a couple of years.
Yeah, he was ready to have a nervous breakdown.
I think that's the thing, because I remember the last time I worked with him, we had always had a good relationship, but then the last time I worked with him, we were on a show. It was me, him, someone else, and Bob Seibel. Bob Seibel was closing the show. And then when I got there, I said to the booker, I said, where do you want me to go? I didn't care. But I had been doing it a little bit longer than Gary. Now, listen, Gary's doing way fucking better than I am. I'm sitting in my basement doing a podcast. He's doing okay, you know. But
what's he doing?
He got pissed.
What is he doing?
I mean, he's had Netflix specials and stuff like that. And
yeah,
and he's well known.
I guarantee you stop 100 people downtown and ask them who Gary Goldman is, and they don't know.
Right.
I'll guarantee that.
No, you're right. You're right.
I guarantee you ask 100 people at random, they won't know me. So.
Well, in Providence, they would. They'd be like, wasn't that guy a car salesman? Didn't that guy sell cars?
Yeah, that's the guy
I bought a car from that guy.
That's the guy
I bought a car from that guy. Had low miles.
I know that guy.
Yeah, had low miles. No.
But Gary Goldman was on Last Comic Standing, and as you know,
yes,
because I have the documentation, it's in my book, and I got references.
Yeah,
that was fixed. That show was fixed.
Oh yeah.
They already picked who they wanted. Barry Katz was representing Gary Goldman, so he got in.
He was the executive producer.
That's right. And he was representing Gary Goldman. I told you, I might have mentioned it to you. I auditioned for the show. I made it to the nighttime. It was at the Improv in Tampa. I went on first because I'm sure they didn't want me to win. Right. I went on first, and I mean, I have witnesses. Absolutely killed. Everybody else did mediocre, except Grandma Lee, who's this old lady road comic. And it was her and I, two great sets. And we come out, and Bob Ross, was it Ross Mark and Bob Reed said, we were going to pick two, but now we can only pick one because of scheduling and the thing and whatever. He said, so it was tough. It was real. I think, oh shit, it's going to be either me or her. What's your BB on? Oh shit.
Right.
And it's going to be, and I think, but we're going to go with Jim Norton. What?
Oh, wow.
Norton.
And Jim didn't have a good set that night?
No one had a really good set. Chance Langton was there. Didn't do well. No one did well. Just Grandma Lee and myself. We were the two. I mean, we stood out.
It's interesting. It's interesting you say that because we've had Santarelli on the show, and I said, Santarelli, you had the best in all the history. In all the history of Last Comic Standing, you had the best line, and you didn't even make it through. He gets off stage and he goes, looks at the camera. He goes, "This show is bullshit," and he walks off. And they had to bleep it out. But he was like, he said it. He said he had a great set. He goes, you know what screwed me? When they interviewed me and they said, so what do you think this? He goes, they asked me, what do you think this show's going to do for you? He goes, nothing. I'm on The Sopranos. He goes, this is the 9th best thing that's ever happened to me. This show. And they fucking cut him. That was it. Sure. It was done.
But good for him. Though.
Yeah, exactly. He did it like it was.
Fixed. The whole thing was rigged. It was fixed, and it came out in the newspapers. And Brett Butler and Drew Carey left. They said, "This is bullshit. We didn't vote for these people. Right. We're out of here." So the whole thing was just a disaster. And that's how Gary Gulman. I mean, in my opinion, he had a couple of good sets. My opinion, he had a lot of help.
Yeah. I mean, I think Gary's great. I think he's very funny. But again, like he got pissed that night they put him on before me because he felt like he should have been higher. And again, I think it has to do with when you learn about people in deep depression, has to do with the depression and his, insecurities at that time, But
I don't give a shit where I go.
I don't
put
care.
me on early. I'll get home early.
Exactly.
If the pay's the same, I don't care where on the show I go.
If I could make the money that I make as a headliner by being a feature,
put me on early.
You know who was good like that? I'll tell you who was good like that, and you probably know it. Charlie Hall.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Charlie Hall would open. He'd host. He'd do whatever. He didn't care.
He's still like that.
He's still
like that.
He didn't care. And you shouldn't let your ego get in the way. And I think Gary's ego got in the way.
Yeah.
With me offering him that money and a nice dinner and a nice hotel, and he gets a chance to do 30 minutes on stage.
One of my favorite gigs with you was out on Cape Cod. Do you remember this? We did a gig out on Cape Cod, and we get there, and then as we were walking in, you even said to me, he goes, all right, this booker's a little odd. Like he lives with his mom or something like that, right? And the guy put us up, instead of a hotel, he put us up at this bed and breakfast. But it was like, I remember we were in separate rooms, but we both got in bed and we were like, there's like sand in the sheets. There was like, it felt like sandpaper when you got in the sheet. By the end of the night, you were like, we're just driving back. We're just going back. And the guy was like, oh, aren't you coming for breakfast the next day? I don't remember the guy. I want to say the guy's name was Michael, and he lived with his mom, and he produced the show, but he put us up at this little shit cheesy bed and breakfast the next day, like that night. Yeah. And we ended up not even staying there because it was so horrible. You don't remember?
You got a better memory than me.
Well, again,
I'm having a Joe Biden moment. I don't.
Come on, man.
I told you about the Lake Ontario Playhouse.
No joke.
Right. Yeah.
No joke.
No joke. The Lake Ontario Playhouse, they used to put us up above the Playhouse. The room that they put me in didn't have sheetrock or anything on the walls. You saw the studs in the walls with a mattress on the floor. Jeez. And that was and we did it in February. It was freezing in that room. The headliner was across the wall. The room was only better because they had sheetrock on the walls. Yeah. That was the only difference. We had a shared
and they told you to bring your own sheets and
the headliner that brought me, it was Stephanie Peters. She said, bring your own sheets and stuff. You don't want to use the ones that are in there. Listen, Ed, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure.
Man.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. You got to let us know.
Anytime you want, I could go on all night.
No, I know. You've got tons of stories.
Right. Scratch the surface on some of the stories we could talk
I know.
About.
But for our listeners, for anybody watching,
the book out.
Check out his book, Welcome to the Stage.
Welcome to the Stage. It's available on Amazon, and it's the price has been cut down. It's under $10. So
yeah.
Well worth it.
but it's Welcome to the Stage, How a Forgotten Dream Became a Reality.
Correct.
By Ed Regine. And I'll put a link to that in today's show notes. If you're listening, go there. You can click on that, get a copy of the book. And those, there's going to be full of great stories that you're going to smile. You're going to be inspired. You're going to absolutely love it.
Yeah. Well,
great stories. Some good, some not so good. But.
Yeah. Well,
but interesting.
They're all entertaining though. Exactly.
And inspiring.
Quite a journey.
Definitely.
Quite a journey. All right, guys. Hey, if you need me again, I'm here.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ed. Be well.
When you're ready
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
When you're ready to announce your big thing in Vegas, let us know.
I will.
We'll have you back on.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Absolutely. I'll let you know what's happening for sure.
Thanks, Ed.
All right.
See
you later.
Have a good night, man. All right. And that was Ed. I don't want to say Ed the Machine Regine because I don't think he really uses that anymore.
No,
but it's so funny how I posted that we were going to have Eddie on the show, and some other guy said, "Is that the Machine Regine?"
Yes.
I go, "Yes, the one and only."
But John Parada cannot say
he can't say Ed Regine without
can't.
saying it. No, because John was like that. John came up at the same time, so he only knew him. But even if he doesn't use it anymore, it's because his jokes were so fast, rapid fire that's what they called him, the joke machine. And that's how he got that name, Ed the Machine Regine.
But when John's talking about places that he used to have, I used to do Old McDonald's Chicken Farm. I had Tom Carter, Ed the Machine Regine. He can't say his name any other
without
way.
saying it.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
No, this was awesome. I'm so glad we were able to get him back on, especially to talk about the book. You got to check out the book. Like he said, it's on Amazon. You're going to hear some of the stories that he told tonight, and then a whole slew of other stories.
But just the whole story of his life and how he came into comedy, the struggles he went through before that, some of the struggles he had during his career. But just, we had a great time, or I did, learning about it when we had him on the first time. So I can imagine how in-depth the book gets. So,
and I love the fact that it's not just about funny stories. It's not just comedy. It's really about perseverance. It's inspirational.
Yeah.
It's never give up on what you want to do, because Ed has been through some adversity. He touched on it a little bit. We kind of joked about it, but he got in trouble when he was younger and paid his debt to society, and then came back. And that's when he started comedy. And I mean, look at what he's done just in that time,
He's a very generous person with his stories.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate it. So thank you so much. Everyone that tuned in tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed that as much as we did. Thank you all that are listening. Again, you want to help out the podcast. Best way is that 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. Share us with a friend. Tell somebody about us. That's the second best way.
Tell us if you enjoy the show. Tell a friend.
Yeah, please.
That's the best way. Get us more downloads.
You learned about your favorite podcast by somebody recommending it to you. Recommend us to them.
Yeah.
And we would appreciate that.
So next week we have a newer comic. In fact, we mentioned him earlier tonight. I've taken him on the road a couple of times.
Yes, James
Firth. A newer comic, very, very funny guy. He's like a young Jim Gaffigan. But we're gonna have James
dirty
Firth,
Jim Gaffigan.
A dirty Jim Gaffigan. But we're gonna have him, and he's gonna be in studio.
Live in studio.
Next couple of weeks, we've got some in studio guests, which is gonna be great. The week after, we have Corey G, who was a reschedule from when I had COVID back in December. We're really excited to have him on. Great, hilarious comic from Western Mass.
Right, just Steve? Outside of Boston, Western Mass.
So Steve Halligan is going to be coming on in a couple of weeks. You may have heard him on. He's been on Anthony Cumia's podcast and
quite a few times,
and a bunch of times.
Regular guest on the Anthony Cumia show.
Right. So he'll be on. And then you heard us talk about Eric Hoffer. He was a comic who ended up fulfilling his lifelong dream and actually bought a club.
Comedy Connection.
Bought the Comedy Connection, ran it for a couple of years, and some circumstances happened beyond anyone's control, and he no longer has it, but he's rebuilding, and he's out in Hawaii. and he's got a club out there, and we're going to talk to him about about his stuff. And then if you are a Rhode Islander,
this is one Ace has worked so
oh my God,
hard on.
If you are a Rhode Islander and you know 94 HJY, we've had Kevin Mulhern on.
Yep.
He's Kevin on HJY way back. The original, I hate to use the word shock jock, but she came up around the same time that Howard Stern came up. And
really?
Yeah. And honestly, should have been syndicated. And this is one of those things where back then radio was an old boys club, because she is every bit as talented as Howard Stern. And I love Howard, don't get me wrong, but she is every bit as talented. We are going to have Miss Carolyn Fox on the show.
And you have been working on this
excited
for months now.
I'm so excited about this. We'll talk to her about what she's doing now, but she literally was the face of Rhode Island comedy radio in rock radio back in the 80s and 90s. In fact, our buddy Brian Mulhern, that's where he got his start, as Brian the pharmacist was on Carolyn Fox's show. So it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be so much fun. That'll be later on in March. So we're really trying to book interesting guests, fun guests, new, established, little bit of everything. So we hope you guys keep tuning in, keep sharing with a friend. And other than that,
we'll talk to you
next week.